Now, Chris Christie was part of the festivities of the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl was actually played in New Jersey. Everybody says New York, but of course the stadium's actually in New Jersey. Being, of course, a person who grew up in New Jersey, I'm very proud of that. So God bless. Now, Chris Christie was involved in several events, one in New Jersey, one in New York, to celebrate the Super Bowl. It didn't go well for him given the controversies surrounding his term in office and how he has handled it, and of course the bridge closings and other controversies, which there's a lot more of. But first, let's show you fun crowd reaction to Chris Christie.
Good afternoon, everybody. You've already heard enough speeches. Enough speeches of the same thing. I want to tell everybody out there to thank you very much to all of our partners, the NFL, the team owners. We look forward to handing it over to Arizona. I was proud to...
They're not saying Legion of Boom. They're saying boo. One of the guys behind a reporter kept yelling, "We don't like traffic." All right, not going well for Chris Christie. That was in New York. He also got booed in New Jersey and Jersey City earlier in the week when he was doing a similar presentation. Now, his problems widen, okay? 3 different issues. Number 1, Christina Genovese Rena, who's Christie's former director of intergovernmental affairs, has just stepped down. Now, you have to understand 2 things about this. One, New York Times did a great story that we covered earlier where they explained that intergovernmental affairs is exactly where they did all this political retribution out of. They would say, oh yes, well, if you give me a project and you approve that in your city, and then I will give you political favors in return. If you don't, we'll have retribution in return. And that's our version of intergovernmental affairs. How much we kick your ass or reward you on a city-by-city basis in New Jersey. Now, the other fun fact about this is that she was about to be subpoenaed tomorrow. Okay, so she steps down the day before she's going to get subpoenaed, but she says, it's not about that at all. No, of course not. She says, quote, "This reflects a decision I have been considering since shortly after the election. I've spent almost 4 years working hard for a governor I continue to respect and admire." She adds, "The transition from term 1 to term 2 is a natural time to pursue an opportunity in the private sector." And a day before you get subpoenaed is also a natural time to step down. So, come on. I know, you've been planning it for a long time, as soon as you heard the subpoenas might be coming. All right, so that's point number 1. Now, point number 2 goes to Mr. Wildstein. Now, he's the guy who was the head of the Port Authority that ordered, from the New Jersey side, that wind up ordering the closure of the George Washington Bridge, which caused all those traffic problems in Fort Lee. Well, now Chris Christie's in a world of trouble over that because now Mr. Wildstein says, I have evidence that shows that Chris Christie absolutely knew that we were closing it down. Now, this is problematic for Chris Christie in a couple of different ways. Number 1, if you have that smoking gun, well, it was nice knowing you, Chris, but you're done, son, okay? You're certainly done at the presidential level in the 2016 race, and you might even be done as governor of New Jersey if he's actually got that smoking gun, which he claims he has. Now, of course, he wants to trade it for a plea deal in his own case, okay? But if he has the evidence, he has it. Now, we'll see, okay? The second reason why Chris Christie's in trouble over that, because in a press conference, he clearly said he had no idea what was going on with the bridge closure, let alone the corruption, until the whole thing was over. So during the middle of the closure, he said, I didn't even know it was closed. I didn't know we had traffic problems. Apparently, again, he claims, Wildstein claims, that there is a document that shows that Chris Christie clearly knew. Okay, so, oops. If he gets that deal and he turns over the evidence, well, Chris Christie, not looking good, man. I see a fat lady in the corner. Oh, there she comes out. Oh, is she about to sing? Pretty close. If she wasn't going to sing before, evidence number 3 will just about do it. When I get to the part about Shaquille O'Neal, you'll know that the nail is pretty much in the coffin. So, first of all, Hoboken Mayor Dawn Zimmer said Christie's Lieutenant Governor, Kim Guadagno, pulled her aside last year and told her Sandy recovery funds from a program separate from the multifamily housing funds would be freed up for her city if she signed off on a certain real estate development. Now, she didn't. And voila, those Sandy funds did not come in. She only got about $300,000 in relief, which is a pittance for a city that was dramatically affected by the storm. Now, New Brunswick in New Jersey was actually a city that was not dramatically affected by the storm. But interestingly enough, they got $4.8 million in relief funds anyway. That's weird. You know where New Brunswick ranked among cities in New Jersey affected by Sandy? 188th. So there's not that many cities in New Jersey. So that is obviously near the bottom. Not very affected at all. They were lucky in that regard. But they got a hell of a lot more than Hoboken did. They got a good chunk of money, $4.8 million. Now why? Well, let's save that for a second. Let's talk about Belleville, which is another town that was not affected by Sandy very much. First of all, they got $6 million, even more than New Brunswick did, to help the developer build 137 affordable senior housing units. What that has to do with Sandy is unclear, right? Well, turns out Belleville ranked even lower than New Brunswick, 254th on the list of New Jersey communities suffering hardships after Sandy. Well, after the Sandy aid was approved, NBC in New York explains, Belleville Mayor Raymond Kimball, a Democrat, crossed party lines to endorse Christie's re-election bid. Oh, interesting. So he seemed to have played ball. The real estate project gets approved. He endorses Christie, even though he's from a different party. And voila, look at that. Here we go, $6 million going towards Belleville. That's funny how that works. Now here comes the interesting part. Now all of that is pretty devastating as it is, because it's clear that they're taking this money that should have gone to relief, and they're directing it not based on whether you need that relief, but based on political favors, not just for Christie, but also for people that he's in business with. Not necessarily directly Christie getting a check, but whether they're donors, they're political allies, he's getting them real estate deals, okay? Now, one of the guys involved in that was Shaquille O'Neal. Now, as NBC explains, another endorsement secured by Christie came from former NBA star Shaquille O'Neal. He has invested with Borai on other real estate projects. Now, that's the company that was working on that project in New Brunswick. See, Christie had an ad where he endorsed, Shaquille O'Neal had an ad where he endorsed Christie. And I was surprised by it. Here, let's show you that.
I don't endorse many politicians, but Christie is different. He's working with me to bring jobs back to our cities. He's a good man. Excuse me, he's a great man. Please join me in supporting Christie, the governor.
So I remember watching that ad going, In fact, let's look at my reaction to that ad at the time that it came out. Watch. So look, Shaq doesn't know much about politics. I don't know why he did the ad. Does he know Christie personally? I know he's from the state of New Jersey, and maybe he felt like, hey, this is a good moment to be bipartisan. Christie's the least vile of the Republicans in the country. Look, Shaq's also an incredibly rich guy. Maybe he wanted some of those tax breaks. Well, now we know. Turns out they were going to get $4.8 million in Sandy money that was going to go to a housing project with a company that Shaq does business with. Gee, I wonder why Shaq endorsed Christie. I can't quite tell. This is how dirty politics works, okay? Now, did Shaquille O'Neal stick with his buddy and partner in crime when it was revealed what Christie was up to in general with the lane closures on the George Washington Bridge? Listen to an interview where he seems to enthusiastically back up Christie right after the allegations came forward.
I actually just woke up and I just heard about it, and I also heard the statement that he released. And in his statement, he said he was unaware of anybody being involved in something like this, and I believe him. When he said that he was unaware of anybody being involved or unaware of anybody sending emails of that matter, I believe him. All I know is that the statement that was released by Governor Christie, I believe him. And again, Governor Christie said he was unaware of the situation, so I believe him.
Look, man, from what I understand, we got millions of dollars, so I believe him. You give me a million more, and I'll believe you even more than that, okay? So look, man, this is as dirty as it gets. So to take money that was supposed to help the people who got wiped out by that superstorm, instead give it to your allies and to enrich them, oof, devastating. And it absolutely explains why Shaq did that ad in the first place. You connect the dots, and it doesn't look good for Christie. In fact, I'm calling it. Mark the time, JR. 6:17 Eastern on February 3rd, 2014. Christie, I have 4 letters for you. OVAH. over. Okay, your presidential aspirations is done. Because not only does it look like you're going to get busted by actual evidence from one of the guys that you conspired with, but then when people put out that ad by Shaq, people are going to pay attention because he's a celebrity. And when they see that you funneled money towards his projects, and then he endorses you and the mayors involved endorse you, that looks disastrous, because it is disastrous. So, nice knowing you, but bye-bye.